Doing that well, but I think today would also I'll just try to make up for the time that I was supposed to join last week. So I guess this going to be the last session for this year, and in my conversation with Joy, I she made points of how you guys have progressed in the course, especially for front end track, and I'll also be reviewing some works on this call. Please, those that I have their links and their repos, and I would also like before then I'll also like give room for question and answers and something generally about maybe front end development, job search, how to upskill, how to um know the next steps after possibly what you are learning. And I could believe, like Richard was saying, some of you are you're currently doing works that are not tech and also trying to juggle it to learn a technical skill, which is very good. I know a couple of people that uh, have been opportune to like mentor on that never did tech in their bachelor's or from school or people coming from education background, people coming from medicine, people coming from law and the likes. And uh, I'll just say it's is the drive. If you have the passion and you feel like this is what you want and this is what you want to pursue, it's not inachievable because the tech world or the tech or digital age is not exclusive to possibly people that did computer science or people that did engineering in school, right? It's open to all really, and that's the advantage that people that are learning technical skills have. I think I was talking with someone during the week, I think yesterday. I was telling now that in the technical space, there is what really people hire as the job market or the companies, what they are looking out for. It's not necessarily the certificate or, I mean, the background of tech, but like the experience and the skills you have is more prioritized. No matter where you are, probably in here, whether it's Africa, Nigeria, or Europe, that's the way it is, right? If you possibly studied engineering or computer science and you don't have the hands-on skills as a front end or as a software engineer, they won't hire you. That's the thing, right? So it's beyond having it stated, okay, I've completed this and that and that. So must be able to see like relative experience or relevant experience of some things you claim you know, right? As a software engineer, as a front end developer. So it's I think it should be as a good source of motivation to you guys to know that regardless of where background, whichever background you might be coming from, uh, sky's the limit. You can always grow in the tech career in the tech space as much as you can, right? As time progresses. So, um, uh, so majorly that's the way it is. Like you are not in the wrong space, and you're not like I possibly said in the first session that some of you possibly your first job, some of you that are possibly learning that you don't have a job currently, the first job might not be tech, right? But if you're very, very much might not be engineering. I know people that possibly just because they wanted to at least work, have hands-on experience and be able to um have a place where uh they can hone their skills, possibly in a technical organization. Maybe they had a background as a customer success, they joined as a customer success, or they joined as customer support, or joined as a personal assistant, or graphics designer, or whatever. And because of the curiosity and and the enthusiasm to make sure that they want to know more about the tech space, they're able to change departments, they're able to join the engineering team, they're able to join the tech team, right? So don't be uh don't feel like maybe if the opportunity doesn't come now, it won't come later. It can come in any form, right? So um that's the way. So buttressing what I'm saying about how that the technical space is not a respecter of whatever background or whatever you possibly must have studied in school. In some cases, right? Right. They look out for, right, is the experience, its technical skills, the portfolio that you have in terms of, I mean, showing evidence of um the what you know, right? It's very important to show evidence of what you know. I can say for other fields, right? Maybe um in their resume, because I kind of build resumes for people too. You can have some things you stated. Maybe you have come from an accounting background, building a good resume for a entry level role or whatever accounting positions you're looking out for. But for tech, it's not enough to mention the skills, possibly the front end developer skills you have, the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Tailwind, um, mention them, all of those things, the technical skills. They want to be able to also see like evidence of those things you claim to you claim you know, or what you have outlined on your resume. Like for people starting out, right? I know that possibly you don't have a real world experience yet, so they will be looking at personal projects you've done, and that's why I guess this program or this bootcamp kind of gives you uh hands-on practical work to do, something that you can uh showcase on your GitHub, right? Because that's really, really important as an entry level, and also like uploading them into, I mean, pushing them into a staging server. Like, so it might not be necessarily something that people are using, a product focused application, but something that you feel like you want to know how to build, right? So like going through some people's work, some people are building job sites, some people are building portals, some people are building weather weather app. So those things like that are things that, I mean, you would want to like build up on, right? As starting out, right? So even though you might not have the organization experience working with an organization, maybe Money Points, maybe Flutterwave or whatever, you can start building your portfolio from now, right? And those are the gates, those are the things that will put you at par against people that are are very much interested in just having the certifications. And I know of people that on their resumes just want to outline almost like five certificate of completion from Coursera. It's not enough, right? Because it's not too much. It's an evidence of learning, but it's not an evidence of practice, right? Just the same way um, every other every other field minimum requirement is okay. You went to school, yeah, that's fine, but you want to also see what practical experiences, I mean, practical skills you also have. So that being said, right, just to talk more in general, or just to um calm the atmosphere a little bit. So for this track, which is front end, one of the things that I was interfacing, talking with Joy about, Joy was talking to me about, is how that there is a need for, uh, she explained how there is a need for you guys to know certain principles, basic understandings, uh, as front end developers that you need to like, I mean, adhere to, and be be uh be regulated in, right? So as a front end developer, there is you. I'm sure you guys know what front end. I don't need to explain, right? You are interfacing a lot with, whether you're interfacing with translating designs and also like integrating with uh backend services or APIs or third party APIs. So you're like a middleman between a designer and also like a developer. So you be a backend engineer might never interface with a designer, right? You might never have any any conversation or anything to do with a designer, right? But a front end developer would have to interface with a designer because you want to make sure ensure that they are happy with the designs that they have done or they've put out. You want to ensure that they are in consonance with what is designed. What you are implementing is the same with what they are translating, both in terms of those in terms of typography, the icons you use, the resolution of images, the pixel perfectness of whatever they designed, responsiveness you get. So those are the things. So the work of a front end developer, I know that there are a lot of views of which one would is much asking. I won't say anyone is more demanding or anyone's more complicated, right? I know backend engineers want to show their show their shoulders that they're doing the more complex one because of logic, because of um handling databases and cloud and all of those things. While also every every track has its intricacies and its complexities. And a front-end developer would say we're not just translating designs to code, we're also doing we are also adhering to accessibility, cross browser compatibility, responsiveness, and all of those things. So every field really has its complexity. I won't really say one outweighs the other in terms of complexity in some certain environments, in some certain cases, right? Some can outweigh the other in some certain cases, right? Maybe in the space of, I don't know, Web3. Web3, that's Web 3.0 is decentralized platform. I don't know if many of you have heard of it. You must have heard of Web3, Solana, uh, Solana, Ethereum, blockchain, and all of those things. So in Web3, right, from my experience, because I've had an experience building Web3, but currently I'm not doing Web3. Uh, it's really intense building the infrastructure on the back end, and that in that case it can outweigh. But generally speaking, both both tracks are equivalently complex in its own sense, right? So as a front-end developer, just to reiterate, you are interfacing with a designer and you're also interfacing with a developer. I mean, with a back-end engineer. So you are you have to know certain things in terms of uh designs, not design as to concept of design, but you must be able to identify a good design uh, and um and also know how a designer wants things to be done, right? Especially because you are the one making the product come to life, right? the best a designer can do is to prototype what they did and see that okay, what they did uh looks okay, but until it is developed and is being hosted somewhere, that's when it becomes actual, right? And that's when it becomes real. So I'm very certain that in possibly the course of in your journey of this course, learning front-end development, possibly you're just learning about the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which are like the fundamentals of web. Uh, it's very good to have those understanding because it's like the foundation, right? If you don't have those basic foundations, you cannot. Um, I know some people. I have heard some people on Twitter say you don't need to learn too much of JavaScript to build this thing. Just go right into React or Vue.js. I don't find that as a good approach because those frameworks or libraries that or tools that you people know, right, are are built with JavaScript, right? The JavaScript libraries, right? So the JavaScript has to be more at least intermediate level to be able to at least excel very well with all those tools, right? They are the same. Aside the fact that maybe Angular has a more Angular is older, right? Compared to React, Vue, Svelte, and the likes and all. Uh they're all the same. They have follow the same pattern in terms of their single page applications, right? Uh so it's good that this course you're taking, possibly you're learning about JavaScript methods, arrays, data structures. Those are very, 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 very key things to make sure uh, you can uh, you can be able to use those technologies well, right? So don't just stay in the surface and know that okay, JavaScript is used to handle click events or event handlers. That's not enough for what JavaScript does. JavaScript itself is a language, actually, right? So it's you can aside using JavaScript to build for the web, JavaScript can be able to do some things that are not the web, right? You can be given, I come from a computer science background, right? So you can be given applications, I mean, some problem solving, dynamic programming, problem solving I mean, problems to solve. And you can just pick, okay, I'm comfortable with JavaScript, I'm comfortable with TypeScript, and this is what I want to use to do it. And it has nothing to do with hooking up documents that add this thing. It has nothing to do with CSS. It's just a language on its own. So it's good that um, you learn JavaScript at least to an intermediate level. Not all of JavaScript. I know of some certain books like the some certain books then when I was learning JavaScript, when people, my colleagues were learning JavaScript, there was like a whole heavy voluminous book of JavaScript. I don't think I, I don't think you need to read all of that to know JavaScript. So that's why sometimes you can learn unnecessary things, right? If, for example, the in JavaScript, what you are more concerned about is the front end, just like we are in front end, you can learn JavaScript that is needed for front end development, right? While also knowing the basics well. Personally, I don't feel people will have issues with HTML and CSS. And possibly if you have issues with CSS, is because maybe you are still using vanilla CSS. What I mean by vanilla CSS is the CSS that you have been taught, right? Uh, The class, how to use class, how to use uh I mean how to use different variables selectors, right? And calling out different styles if it's for calling out media queries for different breakpoints, right? I know that that's the CSS that you guys know, but to be very complicated. They made web has advanced more beyond you writing vanilla CSS and made it more easier, and they created front end UI frameworks, right? That would ease writing CSS in a raw manner, right? So instead of writing, you are just building a one-page application. Maybe your CSS line of code is almost 200, trying to cater for different icons, images, section layout, also creating for different breakpoints. When I mean breakpoints, I mean different media queries, different screen sizes, desktop, tablets, mobile. So instead of that, they've made it easier. We have like, I think the one I started with was Bootstrap. Then we have and it's still very much relevant. It's not bad. So it's not serious, not to write CSS, but you instead of writing too many CSS as a file, Bootstrap does the heavy lifting of layout structures for you, right? And the the inline classes that it gives helps also. Then also there is design, there is Tailwind CSS, which is more popular now uh than than the other ones, right? I'm not opinionated about which one is better, but the one that you are comfortable with and the one that possibly you feel like you've been seeing in job ads more frequently. I think from my own experience, what I mostly see on job ads for front end mostly would be Tailwind. And if you are using a front end library, it could be React or Vue as against maybe Angular and all of those things. Um, I think I talked about making sure that you learn things in a goal of to achieve something. For example, what I mean is if you know that in your surroundings, in your environment, you're in where you are, you've looked at the job ads and you see that people mostly hire for React and Vue JS. And what they're also looking for is maybe frameworks like Tailwind CSS and the Material UI. It's good to also like take that as a skill. You like do like a survey, right? In some cases, it might not be different depending on location, but I can tell you those are the most popular, regardless of any location. Yeah, so uh, it's good that you channel your learning to that point. So don't try to be unique in the sense that you feel like you like Angular. I won't say that there are not companies that use Angular. They are, but the questions you ask yourself is how many opportunities are there for me as a front-end developer using Angular JS? How many how many would hire an entry level for Angular? For example, in backend, there is Spring Boot Java, and oftentimes companies that uses that tool or technology, they are banks or fintechs, and they don't oftentimes hire somebody entry level. So if you, there's nothing wrong in, okay, you like Java as a language and you want to learn Spring Boot personally, but what you also need to know that is what's the employability of Spring Boot. I mean, Spring Boot as an entry level. What are the ones that are popularly higher than the entry level? I'll tell you, maybe could be Python, Django, and Flask, or it could be Node.js, Express, or Next.js. So those are the things that you look out for when you're learning progressively to be able to achieve something. But if you're learning just for learning's sake, or you're learning to start your own business or start your own company, that's fine. But those are the things that I think I also mentioned in the first time we had a chat. So so as a front end developer, right? Uh, like what I was explaining in the first point was separation of concerns, right? Explaining how HTML, CSS, JavaScript work together, why the separation is important, right? Why you need to know JavaScript to at least on intermediate level, not just be comfortable with, "Ah, I don't like JavaScript. I only like HTML and CSS." You're not yet a front-end developer because that's not what all front-end is about, right? I know it's very exciting when you build your first website and you're like, wow, so this is how they build it. This is how, so these things are images, these things are icons, these things are their text, right? But that's not enough, right? You need to like understand that what you've built is real people, just like you people use day-to-day applications, and you go to like view for like fan of football, you go to live scores to check, or you go to Jumia to you want to buy something. You see those applications, they are also built with these technologies, but in an advanced manner, right? So just is beyond. So if you go to Jumia, it's not just HTML and CSS you're seeing. There's a lot of there's the library they are using. There are certain tools, bundles, certain things, even an infrastructure in the cloud, they're also using to serve those things, right? I've also I also explained in our last chat how that okay, front end developer should also like um know what responsiveness is, responsive design. I'm pretty sure that you people know what responsiveness is. So once you are developing a site or developing a website, there is the desktop version, right? Survey shows that many people visit sites on their mobile, like 60 something percent than desktop, because obviously many people use their mobile phone to access things. So oftentimes the way HTML and CSS was being built, when you are building on your laptop, the way it is, it kind of going to be different from the way it should be on the mobile, right? It should be the same look, but you have to cater for it when you are writing. Do you understand? So you, as a front-end developer, you must be mobile first. That's what it means, like mobile first, meaning you are from once you're writing, you're creating your containers and divs and all of those things, your layout, you are thinking about how it's going to look like on the mobile. So that's when certain developer, I mean, inspect tools on browsers is useful. So you are using whether Chrome or Mozilla or Brave, they all have inspect tools, and you can show how it will look like on the mobile, how it will look out on the tab, and how it will look out in the desktop. You're catering for it at the same time. And this is achievable with CSS frameworks that are out there, a lot of them that are out there that make it easy. Before, if you're just writing vanilla CSS, you have to, once you cater for web, I mean, the desktop first, you need to write again to cater for the tablet. You need to write media queries to cater for the web, I mean, for the mobile. So it's laborious, right? It's a mundane task. It's repetitive, right? So they made it easy that you don't have to write those media queries. I know possibly you might be learning them now because it's good that you are aware of it, at least to know where the history of how things were being done. Because I was reviewing some people's work and I was seeing some people use jQuery. Right, those are those times jQuery, query selector, and all of those or vanilla JavaScript to those are the beginning stage, which is good to know, right? It's very fine, but don't dwell there. Nobody does that like in organization standard. Nobody really does that again. So uh performance, right? So as I was saying, as a front end, you are interfacing with front end, I mean designers and back end. So when you are when you are uh when you are adding images, because obviously a front end developer, you're adding assets to your websites. Those are called assets, right? Whether they're icons, whether they're language files, language. if you are is a multilingual website, or you're adding text, or I mean, you downloaded some custom font to use, or you're using images, SVGs, and all. You have to ensure that you your images are optimized. You don't want to be using an image that is like 15 MB or 10 MB, right? To cater for a particular maybe hero section of the website. The hero section is like the first container everybody sees, right? You have to consider that how optimized is this image to be saved, because the basics of how a website is, I guess also that should have been taught. Once you want to go to a website, you request for the resource. So you go to www.gmail.com, right? You hit your IP hits the web server then knows that you are requesting for this particular resource. It serves them. What it serves is what the JavaScript bundles of the bundle of the file, both HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to you as an interface. And aside the fact that it serves it directly, sometimes it uses it catches it somewhere in Cloudflare or something like a CDN, content delivery network, just to make it faster for you, right? Somewhere close to you. So I mean, I don't want to go into deep networking details. So that's how it works. So it serves those image those file as a bundle. It compresses it because it wants to be as optimized as possible. So that's why you hear of something like Babel, right? So for those that have heard of it, uh, that compiles stuff, because all those things you run, they need to be compiled to be served to the user. So they must be optimized as much as possible in terms of the you as a developer. From when you are developing, you should know that possibly for I prefer to use PNGs in some cases. In once you are also maybe icons, you are having to use SVGs, right? They're lightweighter, and they also scale between different media queries, different breakpoints, right? So those are the things you take note of. You understand? And in cases where, for example, a site like, I don't know why I keep using Jumia as an example, in sites where there are things that needs to load at once, right? And it's is much. There's something this concept called lazy loading, right? What does that mean? It's just like the name implies, lazy loading. It doesn't load everything at once, just to make the user experience good and fast for the user. So as you are going, I don't know if people have know some things called skeleton. It shows, it kind of blurs in skeleton. They call it skeleton, right? Skeleton structure layout. When you visit a website, it doesn't load immediately. These are placeholders. So instead of if you develop, if you are very proficient with React, there's a lazy loading uh import, yeah, that you use to your app.js, or the root of your app.js. So that will help just at least lazy load those things, component structures you want to show to the user, right? Just to be ensured that, because generally as a user, I know that at this point you're more concerned about how the interface is very nice and wow, it's but somebody that if it's a cost if it's a product focused website where they just need to do something, it's a bank web application, it has to be user friendly as much as possible. A user shouldn't be going to a website and the first FCP, first contentful paint FCP, that's what we call, like once the first image loads, it takes like 4 seconds. That's already bad websites, so to speak, in terms of user experience, because the user would they're not necessarily patient enough to be able to wait for that time. Like you can also put yourself in that shoes. For example, you want to make a transaction on your mobile banking, and you feel like it's beginning, is loading, is loading, is loading. You get frustrated and you want to leave, right? You don't want to. So the same way, that mindset, you must also have that mindset when you are developing a website. Will the user find this friendly enough? You understand? I know I'm talking on the advanced side, but that's the way it is in the industry standard, right? There are certain site, I mean, there are certain platforms that we use to check performance to tell you the page site, the speed, this page insights. There's by Google, page insights by Google. There are a lot of them that I can't remember now, but they will give you the performance in terms of how it is. I mean, the resource, how accessible it is, how uh cross browser compatibility. You understand? I know that you might not worry about that. Those frameworks like React does the heavy lifting of cross browser before. If you are writing normal JavaScript, you have to have cater also for current browser compatibility. And that was when maybe some browsers handle some things differently, maybe Internet Explorer and the likes. How maybe those are times of the old, right? But you might not necessarily have to think about that one. Um, so that's in on the high end. So on coding techniques, breaks best practices that I feel like um as a front end developer, as you are building an interface or integrating endpoints, integrating APIs, you need to take in. I'll still review one or two codes that I was able to get before the end of this call. Um, we need to. I know now it might not be a a big deal for you because your code works. Once you run your code, npm start or yarn start, it works, right? So far it works. You don't care about uh whether or not is clean or not. So what I mean by clean code is there are once you begin to have opportunities to work in a tech firm within a team, you have to adhere to certain principles. Like you have to ensure that the code you're writing is not just for you, right? Other people can be able to work on that code because believe you me, most of the author of some apps or websites are not the same people that are maintaining it now. So you don't just want to write something that is only you that understands, right? You have to be collaborative in the way you implement things. So what I mean is some people write code that is only them that can understand the code, right? So before you can be, for example, I've interviewed quite a number of people, both for the company I work in Nigeria, organizations and all. And certain things we don't just give you the task and you do and it works, right? In fact, that's like the least thing. We want to see the code quality of how you implemented it, if it's adhering to certain things. So I feel like even as a junior or as an entry level, you have to be already been taking note of that because I know the bar is being raised year by year, right? I said one time that there was a time intern was I don't know anything. I want to come and learn. But now intern is like 1 or 2 years experience. I know it's crazy, but I think that's the way how intense it is, right? But so what I mean is you have to ensure that you are developing certain habits in implementing things in code wise, right? So uh how I don't know, I don't want to sound too advanced. It's something called solid principle, single responsibility, um uh and um There's also what called design patterns, right? That's more on the advanced side. But as a front-end developer, you are interpreting designs, ensure that, for example, you are using variable names. Use consistent variable names. You are having files. Don't just declare a variable const j. For example, if the variable name is supposed to be for it's supposed to be a placeholder for the value of email address, right? Just say const email address in uh in camel case and this, right? So all those certain principles like meaningful variable names, consistent uh naming conventions of your files. If you started with Pascal case for people that write React for naming of your files, continue with it, right? So, for example, I know that some of you must have been picking up React in the model, right? React is reusable in nature, right? You can declare something and reuse them in multiple places, right? So just the same way to that, if some things can be helpers, when I mean helpers, they can be reusable, they can be built into a modular way and reused. Take no cognizance of them, not to repeat, right? Declaring how to use this, right? These are repetitions, right? And also, when I mean also on writing code that another person can pick up, because to be honest, some people write for them to only understand. Somebody else cannot understand. And once you're in a team, you're possibly collaborating with maybe it's a very big team, possibly collaborating with like 3 to 4 engineers, front end, and all of those things. You don't want to, before you can even be hired in such places, they would have seen some elements of collaboration in your code, right? There are levels actually to this thing, but at least in the little level that you- that are, that you are in, right? The you need to start developing that habit to ensure that what code you're writing it makes more sense, right? Um, to somebody else, right? And not just you. And they are following certain, I mean, certain industry standards, right? And it's ensuring that it's quality enough. There is a tons of things that make code quality very. This ones I'm just saying at the basics. There are a lot of parameters involved in what code quality means as a front end or as a software engineer generally. There are a lot of things involved, right? But as you grow in the space, you will begin to learn them, begin to see, right? Because we have in an organization, you want to implement a feature, you create a PR. PR is called pull request, and you have a lead engineer. Before you can't approve your PR first yourself. The lead engineer approves your PR, has to review your code before he merges it or before it becomes one with the base branch, right? They need to ensure, right, the level where I work or where we before a PR can be approved, be vetted, seriously vetted. A a prettier comment or a space, right? That's how advanced it is. I don't want to go into that. Can not make your PR be approved if you're in a senior level. So there is more details as you go higher in the career ladder to how code quality is much very important. Like for example, I see some people's code, you log out console log, you can't push console log to production. You don't want it's only meant for you, right? To be able to easily debug things locally. But once you're already developing within a team, you have to ensure you avoid you have to log appropriately. You don't have to. There's a way there are logging libraries. I don't know. Some of you are not aware that instant logging. So you can't be doing the console log at every point, and you want your code to be approved in what's it called an environment where those things are being adhered to. While I would say that maybe some organizations might not just necessarily take um help you develop that habit in that maybe it shall works. Let's just push it. Is there those are I know that they're possibly startups, right? They're possibly startups and they don't really care about the code quality. So far it works. So far everything is running fine, right? I've met I won't say I've not heard of such scenarios. There are, but that doesn't limit you from learning it personally yourself or inculcating it yourself. Because when you have an opportunity to work for an organization where that is strictly being adhered to, you have to eventually learn it. You understand? I know, for example, I know of some organizations. I've asked a couple of them previously. Do you guys write tests for your code? I don't know if you guys know what test is. When you build functionality, you write tests. There are unit tests. You want to ensure that aside as a front end developer, yes, there's UI tests. In fact, there is UI tests for tools like React that you still have to write tests for, right? Or what you guys do normally now, which I know you guys do, is to do manual UI tests. So you go to the browser, you check if everything goes well with what was designed, that's fine, you leave it. But in a more meaningful space, you write unit test functionality. For example, you want to ensure a password as I mean, a person input is receiving a particular value as against you don't want to just pass random values or person function is returning what is meant to return. You write unit tests, right, to for those places. So there are layers of unit testing. There's unit tests, integration tests, UI tests, and all of those things. There are tools like the way you are React and all of those things that um that handles that, but you must know. So I have asked some certain people, do you guys in the organization write tests? I mean, it's because there is no time, they don't, right? Meanwhile, in some places, it's very, very important. Just like you are developing features, test is as important as the implementation you are doing. So if your previous background, you never wrote tests in the organization and you don't know about testing, you need to learn it yourself and possibly just make yourself create the habit of learning because when more bigger opportunities come, that will ensure that that would require that you know how to write tests. So you understand? You cannot really tell them that. Oh man, yeah, you can be sincere and tell them we never wrote tests in the previous places, but at the same time, it could limit your viability of being hired, right? And I mean, if there are other candidates that could possibly be confident of tests and all of those things. So you guys already know how to use Git, right? Obviously, some of you are already pushing to GitHub, version control or Bitbucket. There are a couple of them. GitHub, they are the same. Is once you know Git, right? Using GitHub, using Bitbucket, using GitLab shouldn't be a problem, right? But also learning how to use Git because um even if you want to work as a freelancer, you just want to be on your own and you are not looking at working within a team, still know how to use Git because you want to be able to have what you are ever maybe developing for a client somewhere. You don't want to have what you are developing for a client on your machine alone. Life happens. Your laptop can crash. Your hard drive can crash, and you be like, hey, and you cannot recover the files of what you are developing for a client, right? So this is where places like remote repository helps, right? You can just pull up, like for example, before my second session, when I wanted to have a chat with you guys, my PC suddenly just stripped off because that was before, and I was telling Joy that okay, I said I think she wanted me to review some works. I said My PC, do I use a Mac, so and my major work is being done on the Mac. I have a Windows, but I cannot do some of those work that I'm doing on the Windows. And it crashed. I couldn't retrieve anything from anything because the setting Mac I'm using, the logic board comes also with the hard drive all in the same component. So I cannot say, okay, I want to remove the hard drive and retrieve. But if, for example, I never all the works I've been doing, the projects that I have, I don't have it remote. How would I be explaining to my bosses or the client or the project that I've lost the files that I've lost? I have to restart. So I didn't have issues that okay. The only thing I could have said, okay, I my laptop is gone, but thank God the resources, all the source code is being hosted on Git, so I don't have issues. I can always pull the code and continue from where I stopped. So ensuring that you have know how to use Git is very important. So if you are intending to want to work in a collaborative team, your Git knowledge, in fact, your Git knowledge currently now is still basic as to when you start working with a team and start having to do rebase, having to do cherry pick, having to do resolve conflict and all of those things. That's when you're, but at least know how to use the basic Git commands, Git hard, Git remote hard, Git commits, Git push, Git pull, all of those things, Git merge. Know how to use Git as a platform because it'll help you. These are things that get around it. I'm sure that if you must have seen a job ad and you would have mentioned ability to use this, right? And those are all those things. Framework usage, yeah, framework usage. You're some of you are already using React, some of you are already possibly using Vue.js or building with those tools. Keep up with it. This you can't for those that feel like it's just JavaScript. I don't like no, don't don't try to be special because nobody will hire you with that alone. Right? Don't feel like HTML, CSS, JavaScript is all the things I need to know. I don't care about frameworks or UI frameworks. That's what in the job market what they're hiring for, right? So master how to use React as a React. I think React is the most popular and the most used, right? I think followed by Vue.js. The other ones coming up, Svelte, Angular is at the bottom, but it's still very relevant. If you want to feel like you feel confident, you want to pick up Angular, that's fine. I'm not opinionated on the kind of things, but you have to also, like I said, ensure you do your research of why you want to pick certain technologies and tools. And debugging skills, right? Those are things that you learn. I don't think a course would teach you how to debug fully. You would learn it as you grow. Obviously, there are certain things you can be learning as a front end developer, how to develop debug, go into the, I mean, dev tools in the browser to check some things, at least as a front end developer, you know where the console is, event listeners are, you know where to show the inspect. So, for example, you want to inspect certain things, you know where the responsive mode is. You show, okay, how is this going to look on a Samsung S8? How is this going to look on an iPad 10? How is this going to look on the browser? How is this going to look on a wider screen? So you should ensure that you know how to use those. I think is Command Shift I on Windows. I mean, yeah, Control Shift I. So the same thing too. So you can always all browsers have it. I think Chrome uh is more popular. I think Chrome is more standard to use. While Firefox is not a bad idea too. I don't know of Microsoft Edge, but I think Microsoft Edge also does have. But you can just stick with any of those two, Chrome, Mozilla. That's fine. Um, um, so I think those are the things I would have to say. Error handling, I think I mentioned that. Uh, I've mentioned overcomplicating code, making it simple. Um, Also, I would also give props to some people's work that I'm seeing that use that documents on their GitHub, which is very good. Documentation is also something that you need to be also pick as an habit to ensure that you're a well-rounded engineer, right? You are able to write comments where necessary on your code, right? Uh, Document on README, whatever the project entails, how to run it, how to spin it, or how to test. Um, it's good. It's good practice. It's best practice to document. What that would also enable somebody that want to um contribute to your code, um be able to understand clearly what this is going to be doing. Aside the fact that you ensure that your code is quality enough, right? In the way you structure it, in the way you declare variables, meaningful variable names, in the way you declare functions that are relative to what it's doing. Don't just write function A this. If the function is meant to validate, function validate email, that's clear enough. For example, yeah. So those are things that uh will help you I mean build a more reputable I mean repeatable career as a front end developer. So um before I move to okay, resources, right? Resources. I know you guys are learning from where you are learning from, but don't be don't be straight jacketed to think that's the only place you can learn from. Uh there are places like Mozilla documentation web docs. There's also frequent Web3 W3 schools. I think those are the places where many people, if you want to really go and check what a function or what is CSS style is, W3 schools can also can be as an archive as against maybe Google search. Yeah, ChatGPT also does that. And would I also do I didn't have this as an outline on my what to talk about. Also, maybe talk about how does AI I know that is a topic for another day. How does AI like influence you as a developer as a front end developer as an engineer? Does it improve you or does it make you more lazy or does it now I would say generally AI helps productivity. I know some of you are usually using ChatGPT or whatever or GitHub Copilot or whatever tools you are using, which is fine, right? But you can it's possible to just um to be relaxed or to depend only on it because well I know that there are some tooling that translate design to code for for people. uh I know Animal, some of them don't do an excellent job. Why I don't feel people industries like more enterprise organizations will adopt that is because when you are developing applications, you are talking about scalability. So it's not just about AI interpreting the designs. I'm very sure some of you maybe don't know, but there are tools that can help you generate your designs to code, maybe React or Vue. There's a DHI Wise. There are a ton of them currently out now. But don't be reliant on it because maybe you can do that as, for example, I know backend engineers that don't really care about front end. They do that and they still build their um, backend APIs, functionalities, and plug and play, right? But the front end focused engineer, if you just want to stick with that, it's going to be Will I say killing you softly? Because really, in my own honest opinion, right, no organization will develop SaaS products, right, using those places. I don't know why they are still there, why they are pushing their products. No reasonable, every reasonable organization develop their things from scratch, right? Why you can feel like, okay, maybe you have a side gig that you feel like, I don't want to be too in working, I mean, intense with, I don't have that much time to start doing this UI. Logic wise, you might still write JavaScript and all of those things, but you don't have time to interpret those designs. Then you just use an AI tool that will just do that. That would be fine, but industry standard, nobody does. Nobody does that. Maybe you go to Flutter with many points, you think that you know, you give you tasks, you implement them because AI won't care about the maintainability, the the how scalable you want the application to work, how is going, for example, if it's a mono repo, how is it going to affect other places in the application that so it's not just about something just working. Like you said, okay, it's working. Well, this is good. I'm just gonna sleep. No, so it's just good. I just keep this in. It's just good to just be aware because obviously we're in an AI space and the whole tech age is fuzzy about the AI stuff. It has its pros, also has its cons, right? Um, while I don't know how people that are schooling, because before I mean I had finished school before ChatGPT, we did now, yeah. For example, productivity has increased. Instead of spending 10 hours on Stack Overflow trying to debug an issue, I can just ChatGPT something and it gives me that's where AI becomes a pro for you because you reduce the time you need to spend to implement something. But it will not AI is not going to take people's job indirectly, developer job indirectly like that. You have to still be able to use build because no matter how intelligent AI is, I think the one that is more intelligent in code quality and code implementation is Cloudy compared to ChatGPT. Enterprise applications are still need to be developed by humans because humans have the requirements. Humans are the one that understand the user than a machine and AI. Do you understand? So don't be heavily reliant on because I feel like as the world is going by, the educational system is being crippled day by day. I mean, little by little, because anybody, people that are maybe students in secondary schools, universities, just want to use AI to do everything. While it can maybe save you time, I feel like if if you if it becomes an habit, it will make you more lazy to do things yourself, right? Which will not make you be employable, really. Because I know students that don't just think about doing the assignment, they will just chat GPT the assignment and everything is done. So at that point, working in structured organization might not be listen, working in a structured organization you might not be able to get offered because once you are being interviewed, you have to be able to ensure that you deliver the value you're delivering. So I just keep this in as a disclaimer, right? It's just how that AI can be beneficial at the same time it can be harmful for uh, an engineer at this time. It's helpful really, but don't be heavily reliant and feel like AI can do all the work for me and just go and sleep and that's all. So that's about all what I want to say. Aside reviewing one or two projects that I mean 3 or 4 that will share my screen. But before then, let me ask if there are any questions or any questions or any contributions or any from what I said, from maybe not what I said. If you need any question, you can let me know. If you have any question, Joy, are you
I
there?
don't think there are any questions. Yes, I am. I don't think they have any questions, sir. So we can just go ahead. I don't know if you can hear me.
I think what you said.
But,
I think
all
somebody
right,
is raising
Richard.
his hand.
Okay, yeah, Richard is raising his hand.
Okay, go ahead, Richard.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wow, wow, wow. I can really, I first want to really thank you. It's been a whole lot. Thank God it is being recorded. Okay, I can see recording. Okay, so it has really been a whole lot, Mr. Ayomitide. I need to look you up on LinkedIn. I need to, you know, because there are lots questions about. Let me just start with it by saying thank you so much. You've really shared a lot. So even the questions have been answered automatically by what you've taught. So I really appreciate this. So my question is, you're talking about how much JavaScript one needs to know before delving into React, Vue, or any of those JS frameworks. And but my question is just simple: how much CSS and how much CSS and how much JS do I? Because for me, I keep going round about a cycle of, oh, I don't know CSS enough. I don't know
Hmm.
vanilla CSS is enough. I don't know. Okay, I want to go into Tailwind. What approach should I go with? Should I start by or Bootstrap? Should I start by working on a few projects? Then JS is very wide, very deep. How much is enough to say, let me go into React? Should I, okay, I know arrays. I know, okay, should I work on a few projects? So that's just a simple question. I don't want to elaborate the question, but I think you understand.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that question. Possibly I would have anticipated this. Um, how much how much JavaScript do you need to know to delving into frameworks or libraries? How much CSS do you need to know? Um, I think I've said this before. I was also like going through LinkedIn, I think earlier this week, and one person was like making a point that um uh you don't need to have mastery of can't remember the name of the person now. Have mastery of a particular language or particular technology to feel confident that you can work with that. I also tell people that, right? I think I said that you don't need to, there is this feeling of I need to know almost everything before I can be employable. The truth about it is, whatever you know now, once you have an opportunity to use them, you begin to know more, right? So there is a false facade of I have to learn everything to be able to be employable or to be able to on a particular skills. Even if quote unquote you feel satisfied in your mind that oh I know React from beginning to end. If you work on some project, if you work on some project, then you begin to question how much of the React you know because you will learn. So learning doesn't stop really. Whether you are 10 years experience into the field or not, or 5 years, or you still learn. There's still certain things on a project that I come across is let me give this example is for example in the university, right? You are possibly going to year 4. When you start, no matter what you have known, maybe you're a first class as class student, then if you enter a new semester, the first few lectures will look daunting. You feel like, what have we entered? But as the time progresses, as you enter into the semester, some people is possibly until maybe the 11th week, they begin to be, oh, okay, see, this is how this course is about, really. But when you started, it will that's how it is. So different environment will determine how you adjust. Now, to answer the question, how much JavaScript do I need to learn to be able to delve into frameworks? I'll say to an intermediate level. So, what do I mean by intermediate level? There is, I don't know which resource I can recommend that would explain this. Like I was saying, there are some people that when they were learning JavaScript, they were taking one big book, almost a book like this. It's ridiculous because why are you learning? Is except you just want to be an JavaScript expert. The only thing you want to write is JavaScript. You are not concerned about the web, right? Like JavaScript is a language on its own. But if you want to use that JavaScript for web, certain things like functions, different data structures, right? Certain things like now data structures, what are they? The arrays, the lists, the maps, uh how to manipulate arrays, the functions that are attached to arrays, all those things are data structures, right, within the JavaScript. That enough is okay to delve into um front-end frameworks like React or Vue. You don't need to be learning. There are tricky. There's one book called JavaScript, the tricky part. There are advanced JavaScript topics, right, that have never been have never been used in front-end React because there's just these little parts, right? I don't know if I'm explanatory enough. There is JavaScript is a language, right? There are things that um it does that might not necessarily be just for web development or just for using it within a technology, right? Just like Java too is a language that maybe, for example, concurrency in Java might not necessarily want to use it in Spring Boot or having to use Java on particular things in Java that Java does that are exclusive just for Spring Boot or just for this. So what you need to know for JavaScript for web is just maybe uh functions, how to declare functions, how to call functions, how to use JavaScript data structures and all the kind of data structures you can think of. That mostly they are just like 4 or 5 that are mostly being used in the web, right? I don't think graph is being used, right? That's more intricate in terms of I mean data engineering and all. But that's just about that for JavaScript. Now for CSS, right? I know that front-end developers, as you grow, you get more frustrated about CSS. Now, to be honest, one thing you need to know about learning is that you don't need to know, you don't need to cram all the things you are learning now. I cannot remember maybe from CSS, maybe I've possibly been writing CSS for maybe 9 years or 8 years. I cannot possibly remember what an attribute is. Guess what? The ID I uses can give me a list of them. Or for example, I want to quickly go and check up how do I make Z index or relative layout to this particular component. And I don't know what property to use. Go and check it. There's nothing wrong. But people have this mentality that I need to have everything in my head. There's very little you need to learn about how the memory also works. There's very little information that you can retain in your mind. What an engineer does, what really makes you an engineer is you know how to solve a problem, you know the approach to take. So for example, as a front-end developer, you are seeing an interface. You know that if you destructure the interface, this is a this is this is a div, this is going to be inside a container, a mid container, this is going to be relatively out, this is going to be absolute, this is going to do this, that. Guess what? You've already solved that problem. But ability that okay, I need to remember and not go to the documentation and just write it. It's a lie. Well, people can be doing that, but it doesn't change the fact that it doesn't remove the fact that it doesn't make you a developer. So if you feel like, oh, I've forgotten how to start, sorry, how to center a div, which is one of the most bantered stuff. How do I center a div? Like right now, I cannot even remember how to center a div. But if I go to Google, how to center a div, okay, this is Google because I know that okay, this container is meant to be in a center, right? What can I do? Oh, I've used justify this thing, it's not going and blah blah blah. You've forgotten. Go and check it online. You've solved that problem. So you don't have to those things are things that can easily escape the mind. You don't have to retain everything in your head and be like, okay, you are confident that okay, now I am in front end this thing. To be honest, as you advance, you might not remember those things, but what will leave you with is ability to interpret a problem and give a solution to it. You know, you're given a interface, you can destructure it in your head. Okay, this will do this will do that. This is the function I'll do to do this and that. So I'm on CSS. The basic CSS you already know, which CSS is not that wide. CSS is intense because I know that some people build some very except you want to become a CSS expert. But leave that for those that make. I know some certain people that are CSS expert that give them anything they can do it with CSS. And that is why because those people have stayed with that language or with that tool, and that's the only thing they want to make proud of. Like like this guy on YouTube, huh? Forgotten his name, Josh. Uh, Forgotten his name now. Possibly if I remember, I'll just send it to the chat. It does that. It knows CSS to the green. But you that you want to just use CSS as a tooling with other things, you just need to know the basics. You just need to know the concept and be able to use it. Now, as against transferring it to Tailwind, it's the same CSS that is being used in Tailwind. Those are Tailwind are class names, and you need to learn how to use. And guess what? If you do not remember it, that's why the documentation is there. You can always go back to the website, the Tailwind this is for this the class name, and there are also like plugins. For example, if you use VS Code, there are plugins that can give you an autocomplete. Oh, this is this and that. That's the way it is. I think I should have also mentioned this that you don't need to cram, you don't need to be an engineer that uh I can build a whole web application, I won't check the documentation. That's good. If you can do that, that's beautiful. But it doesn't remove the fact that if you go and check, I've done interviews, technical interviews, live coding interviews where they be like, we understand you can check Google or to search for some things. That there's nothing wrong because really that's the way it is. Or whether you're a senior or you're a staff engineer, it doesn't mean that a senior engineer. I don't mind content creators on Instagram or wherever that think that everybody is you're not writing everything from your head. It's not true. It's not true. What you already have as an engineer is the problem solving, how you approach something. You can already destructure a problem and how you solve it is left to you. If it's for me to have a window that shows where the documentation is and how I implement it, that is the way it is in tech, in engineering. It doesn't mean that the programmer is just writing everything from his head. It doesn't do that. No matter the level you are, even if you write every day, I forget some things, I go quickly look them up. That's it. So that's I think I don't know if I've answered that question.
Yes, you really, 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 really answered. So at least you gave me this confidence that I can always, it's no, there's no crime in going back to quickly look up these few things. Like there's really nothing much to, okay, you don't really have to know much of this to say, okay, I'm ready to go this. So I really appreciate the essence. Yes. So someone else raised their hand.
Yeah, I did it for your hand is raised, so I think you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ayomitide. God bless you for the good work. The lecture is really impactful. So concerning project, my question goes, sorry, my question is concerning project of a team. So is there any framework or any place you can recommend for us? For instance, if I want to build an e-commerce site, is there any place that can maybe free or that the payment will be minimal, where we can try, where I can learn how to incorporate payment gateway into my app, just for learning sake? Thank you.
Okay, if I'm to get that question clearly, how to, is it places where search for opportunities or places where you can learn?
Okay, for instance, let's assume I'm working on a project, an e-commerce site that give user option to pay directly online. Now, for me to display that as a project for a potential employer, I think the project needs to be working and somebody should be able to pay on that platform. Now, is there any platform where that handle that free or cheap?
Okay, okay. Yeah, there is. Best of my knowledge, for this example you gave, payment gateway, you can always have, for example, um, the package used to integrate the payment gateway, which is really Flutterwave or whatever, Paystack, which is a library, right? You just call the Flutterwave payment gateway, and to test it, right? You can just put it on test mode, right? Use the test keys. I have like a test key you can use. You can actually go to their this thing. They give you ability to use test keys. There's also test card. I don't know if you know that. There's also test card you can use to just show that, oh, this integration works well, right? And any that's just for that. Any third party um packages you want to use as sandbox. What I mean by sandbox, like a testing environment where you don't, possibly you might not need to sign up, but you can test, right? Okay, maybe for example, OTP. You want to use an OTP service within an app, and you have searched for third party uh services that handles OTP. Maybe you come across Tema. If you sign up on Tema, you can have a sandbox where you can test it. Have your API keys, do on testing. If it's a webhook, you can always test a webhook in a webhook sandbox. So there's just where how you search it. I think you can just Google search it or test for this, one of those things. The only thing that maybe will be requiring you to pay is if you are wanting to go on production and you want to add some, you want to use some other features that are not on a free service, then you have to pay for that. But for many minor things that are baby payment gateways, you can always do that for free. You don't have to just suffice on inside test sandbox. So you don't need to pay to use that. I don't know if I answered that question.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. I think another person, Peter.
Yeah, Peter, your hand is raised, Peter.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, 100.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, and also I'm really enjoying the uh, lecture. Let me put it that way. And also, I'll make a little bit contribution and also ask my question, as my other colleagues are saying. I have been in the field for quite some time now, and as you were saying, there's no need for chewing all the lines of code in mind before you become a good developer. The whole thing is you know how to get the right thing at the right place at the right time. But there are certain things you might think they sometimes they even normally they changes as times goes on. You might some things has been done, changes has been done there. So it's always very good. Whatever that you don't know, when you keep all of them, you keep on messing up. You think you know all, but anything that you have that you think is not going well, you just ask Google or any platform that you think you trust can help you for that. And also, my question here is that as a developer, also sometimes uh, the platforms that we normally engage ourselves in learning, and sometimes when you are working on as a front end developer, is it always necessary, or is it only that you can depend on some specific languages that will help you get to wherever that you want to get to as a front end developer, or you focus on your CSS, your HTML, your JavaScript, and also your Net.js as well. So I wanted to get clear information about the exact roadmap. Let me put it that way. The things that you think it can be necessary for me to do better in the front end field. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll just reiterate. I think I kind of covered this a little, but um, well, the exact roadmap will determine what you want to achieve with that roadmap. Right? If that roadmap is the goal of it is to ensure that you get employed certain places, right? Or you want to work as a team, or you want to ensure that you have the necessary technical expertise to be able to get employable, if I can put it like that. Is that um there are tons of frameworks out there, like you said, that most likely confuse beginners. Which should I take? Some questions. Some people are like, should I also? I'm also. Is it okay to pick Web3, 3JS, Web3 libraries alongside? It depends on what you have interest for. Well, before switching to another, make sure that you already have like a good foundation before switching, right? For example, if there's a reason for you switching from React to Angular, make sure that you already have like a mastery of React before moving to Angular, right? Because of in today's environment, I said that HTML, CSS, and JS are not good. Is not enough to get it to be as distinct, because today's world companies use JS frameworks like React, Vue, and all those things. So within that ecosystem, if you pick React, for example, look at what most just do a Boolean search of the the um the things that a React developer should know, like a front-end React developer should know. How to use, is it necessarily how to use Material UI, how to use certain React React things that are maybe TypeScript as against JavaScript, because a lot of industry standard mostly people don't use JavaScript. I don't know. TypeScript is more comfortable to use, right? As against JavaScript. It's still JavaScript, but it's a superset of JavaScript. So for example, before I moved to TypeScript, I noticed that companies were beginning to switch to TypeScript with React. And I was wondering that is it not JavaScript? But TypeScript have been in existence for as a language for like I don't know how long, but more than 10 years. But adopting it with React was really very new as to when React was came out. So companies started switching in, and the most organizations want people that can write React with TypeScript because it has a special way you write it as against with JavaScript. So that things that you once you do a research, you get oh, they use TypeScript. Oh, they use functional components as against class components. Oh, they use hooks, a lot of hooks instead of this. Or what tip management do front end developers need to know with React? This is just React states or Redux or stand, or there are a lot of them, but which one is more popular to use? So you just do like a search, you will observe and what are the things that you are seeing within a job requirement that is stating, oh, these are the things, these are the requirements, these are the things that a front end developer should know. Then begin to channel your learning to that. For example, if you don't know Redux or Redux toolkit with React and you've been seeing it a lot, it's just wise for you to okay, what's this Redux? I need to learn how to use it. I need to have like a hands-on experience using it, which we have, right? If you're seeing ability to use testing with React, I mean testing components, testing with JS and all of those things within this thing. Learn those things by yourself. There are resources actually, there are tons of resources out there that just pick one of them. Once you pick one of them, be contented with it because I know that there is a feeling of I think I need to go and jump on another one to learn. And you don't need to not necessarily if you have a good more curated course, you can need to know what you need to learn. Aside, okay, I think I need to jump on another one to know, okay, to be comfortable or confident, right? So that's the approach I feel like you should take. There are people that are opinionated that, oh, don't do this. This is what me I feel. People will always have their own opinion, but I think that's the approach. Okay, Peter. All right. I don't know if that answers the question. I think there's another question. You know.
I mean, there are several hands being,
I need to. We have like 20 minutes. I need to review some words.
yeah,
Let's still take one or two questions if chance.
okay.
to-
So
to-
Leonard, your hand is raised.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's very low.
Okay, can you
So
hear
you
me
just
now? Is it clearer? Hello, is it better?
yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ayomitide, for the wonderful, actually, wonderful session indeed.
It's just me. I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, I think it's clear now.
Okay, um, so like I was saying, thank you so much for everything. For the now, I think I have about four questions. One is,
Leonard, I cannot hear you. I don't think everybody can hear you. So I think you can just what do we do? You can just type in the chat box, then I'll read it out for you. Is that fine? Or probably you check your mouthpiece or something.
Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, that was loud.
Okay, okay, better,
Yes,
better,
I
better.
can hear you.
So, I was saying that I have about four questions to ask. One is, what is the difference between front-end developer and then web developer? It does confuse me. As a front-end developer, they talk about, they always talk about web, 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 web. But I think it's beyond web. So I want to know the difference between them. And then this one sounds silly, but yet I am confused about it. What's also the difference between front end developer and front end engineer? Ah, the two concepts confuses me. Then the next question is, um, as a front end developer, do you need to learn the skill of UI UX? Okay, and I think the last question is, um, okay, I've forgotten the last question, but just answer these three. If I remember that, then I'll ask.
Okay, the first one is what's the difference between front end developer and web, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So I will not say that the way organizations create their titles differs, right? And the title convention can vary as to how the person or the recruiter feels he wants to name it, right? He's just naming convention, right? The same front end developer can also be called a software engineer. It's just the naming. Now, when you now look at, let's just forget about the naming. Then we look at what the requirement of that role is saying, right? Uh, you look at, okay, inside this web developer, this thing that they are saying somebody should know how to use PHP, MySQL, how to use Linux servers, how to use front end, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Now, they already look, there is almost similar to what we will call full stack engineer, right? So instead of them saying full stack engineer, right, uh, they are also calling it web. Now, why some people can just still say, okay, it's web developer, right? I don't know which allegory I can give to explain this thing more clearly because I feel like it's just the way people want to name it, right? What is in the content of the naming, what the expectation is what they will really define what they are looking for. So a web developer can eventually mean that they are looking for a full stack engineer, which is somebody that has both knowledge and experience with front end, back end at the same time. But the naming is just right. The same web developer can also be called software engineer, right? In a sense, right? But while I say that the namings can sound inappropriate in some places, in some particular scenarios, right? Because that is the way they feel like they should call it that, right? For example, some people can you see a job ad that is saying front end developer, and you are seeing some experience with Java, experience with SQL, and you'll be like, what's that doing in a front end developer role? Is outrageous, Abby, but they just used that name out of context. But in summary, I feel like it's just what in the content of the name of what the person is saying that conveys the meaning. There is it might necessarily mean that it's the same thing they are referring to. Now, that will now bring me to the second question, which I think I answered last session, difference in front end developer and front end engineer, right? That is also naming. But an engineer, in a sense, right, as the name implies, as to a developer, is I know if you go to Quora, for example, you see a lot of these questions being asked. What's the difference between front end developer and front end engineer? I'm really not usually part of because I feel like they are just naming. But an engineer, in a sense, or a software engineer, in a sense, is uh, there are certain things that a developer, right, quote and unquote, that is making that difference. Is not taking cognizance as an engineer. So an engineer is somebody that is more looking. Let me give this scenario that is more, maybe more in tune to building enterprise applications, like product focus uh, um, applications, in that some of the certain principles and adherences are stated, right? An engineer should adhere to them, like the code quality, the adherence to collaborative nature of that. That's why most of those companies, like maybe Flutter, we will call it engineer, right? Because they need somebody to be somebody can go to the way some people go and learn graphics design. So that I want to book and I want to go and learn web development. I'm a web developer. Now, there are some things in that course that you, so I feel like somebody can transition from just being a developer to be an engineer. When you begin to be an engineer, there are some certain things you now begin to take, because I know people that learned web development like the way they learn graphics, who are going to learn it somewhere else. And yeah, I'm a developer, and that's where, and some of them, they are just freelancers. They just do it and go. Some of them, for example, can even use state CMSs like WordPress, and they are call themselves their web developer. That one, web developer, most times once you see that name, maybe somebody that can use WordPress. And at the same time, could also mean somebody. So it's the content that determines what they're actually saying. Nobody really has um uh right to say, okay, this is the appropriate name you should use. If they decide to use developer as the name, if they decide to use engineer, but all I know is that an engineer is more of an is more is more industry product focused compared to a developer, in the sense of what I've seen people that call themselves that, right? Sure you get. So it can be used interchangeably, really, because the same front end engineer can still call himself a software engineer. Would that mean that it's not a software engineer, right? So it's also like the same thing. So the third question was, what's the third question again?
Okay, the third question is, as a front end developer, do you need the skill of UI UX?
Okay, UI UX. I won't say the skill, but um, the concept, right? It's good to know the concept. So for example, because you are interfacing with a designer, right? You need to know when a designer says that this thing, this model you are developing is going to be an overlay. If you are like, okay, what's the meaning of this model is going to be an overlay, and you don't know the meaning, right? Uh, you go and check it out. You're already learning UI UX, because you need to also understand where the designer is what his mindset in designing something is. Sure, you understand. So for communication and collaborative purposes, it's good to like know UI UX in the high level. So when a designer is like, this thing, please, is supposed to, the typography is this and that, this is supposed to have this and that, you are able to interpret that, okay, this is what the designer is saying. You might not necessarily know how to use Figma, take the tools, the Dropbox, and all of those things. You might not necessarily, but for collaborative purposes, you just need to like understand and be able to communicate with them what they are saying, right? So that's the reason why I feel like a front-end developer should at least, you might not necessarily have to take, you can take a course that doesn't have to eventually be exhaustive, maybe take 6 months. No, you can just take some YouTube tutorials, or at least but those things will grow as you begin to work on products, projects, and interface with designers, and be like, oh, this is not how this thing is supposed to be. This is how it is. When you begin to have brainstorming sessions, then you begin to get some information once, and like that. So that's how. So it's important to also, as a front end developer, to have UI UX design concept knowledge. You don't necessarily need to know how to design. If you want to, I know developers that are front end developers that are also designers. Is a plus, is an added addition. And I know designers that know front. In fact, there are some designers that need to also know front end in develop so that they don't design things that cannot be developed. So they are also like also mandated to also know because a designer can design some things that cannot be developed in terms of like, and the designer wants that thing he designed to be pixel perfect, interpreted the way he designed it. But if he doesn't know a little bit about front end, that oh, this is how this he he is also not in a good way to collaborate with engineers. So that's the way it is.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. You've answered all.
Okay, so I think the fourth question, I think let's go because I have like 5 minutes left. Because people already buzzing my Slack. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I saw this one. It's not opening on the same page. Okay. Okay, so somebody did this, a weather app. Right. This is okay, right? In terms of functionality wise, it gives me uh the resource, I mean the weather temperature of uh percentage light rain. I don't know if it's but this is the code here. Now this person used Zamani. This person used Pure.js. I like the fact that this is what I was saying about README. It's good to have readmes on your your project. Have like interface. This is very good. How to contribute to it. How to also put it. I think it's and person deployed with GitHub pages, automated deployment. That's also great. Uh, the only the only because this person used Pure.js, I cannot fault anything because it's based on what the person feels and it works, right? HTML code structure is fine. Use of PNG is fine. Uh, yeah, this is what I was saying about the naming conventions being okay, being let it let it convey the meaning. This is city display, so I'm guessing that this is what it does. Temperature, humidity, description, weather, emoji. This is fine. The only thing I can say about this, okay, it's not this one. Once you are putting an API key, for security reasons, it's good to put an in an environment variable. Like you need to have like you don't commit API key to Git, right? Because of obviously security reasons. But obviously this is just an armless open API for checking weather, right? And but as you develop more, I mean, you are developing more applications that you need to ensure that for standards are there. I mean, certain standards to be followed. Just have this API key on your env file, then use OpenENV to call it. So I mean, to call the API. For example, let me see if I can pull up the code here. That Um, this is backend though, but I think it works. So this process of env, the call it. So apparently you can just have it at your root of your file. So this is okay. This is fine. If I'm to check developer tools, how responsive is also responsive. So this is where you check friends iPad. So I can also enter. Um, so that's the only review. I think this can be. This is pure JS, which is fine. I like the fact they are using switch case for different um, emojis you want to return. Uh, Functional calls are fine. Uh, as against if it was React, possibly I would have made some few comments, but this is okay. This is fine. Let me see if I can pull up another one. So this person's code, I couldn't run it. I couldn't see the project live because I was trying to go through it. But it wasn't showing Zamani. Wait, it's the same person. Oh wow. Okay. This is pure React. Uh this is also very good file structure, which I like. Assets, component layout, pages, uh, uh, this. I would have loved to see this. I like the fact that you're using Pascal for like component names, right? So consistency matters. This is what I was saying now about job listings. They're intuitive to know, oh, this is the Euro section of the application. Yeah. So this is good. This is fine. But I would have, assuming I can see the interface, I could have made one or two comments. Um, well, this person doesn't have it shown live. Let's see. Okay. HTML. This is pure HTML and CSS. Okay. Personally, right, is uh is fine. In that maybe you're just trying to show how to show layout, add CSS, but obviously you could see that the color scheme are not complementary, meaning that you're using, I don't know which particular color it is here, maybe pink, you're using red, but there's also no, I know that you, okay, the person sent live demo. Okay, so I know that you might not know how to design, have knowledge about complementary colors, all those things are design things, but uh this doesn't match like in terms of it's okay, like maybe you are using this to practice how to show your layout, how to style and all of those things, and that's pretty fine. If I'm to check,
Yeah, I also cannot hear him. Okay, so I think it's probably network or something. Um, Yeah, I'll try to find out what's going on and get back to us. I'm so sorry about that. Yes, I'll try to confirm with him, Albert, and then get back to everyone of us. Yeah. Um. Yes. Definitely. All right. So it's back. Oh, apologies. I thought he was on the call. I think yeah, I think this is all network. I apologize, and let's just give us 2 minutes. With my dear. Mm. Oh, Fatolu Orelua. There's no attendance link. We're not taking attendance, right? So I don't think you have to bother yourself. The attendance we need is actually already. So while we wait for Mr. to okay, Leonard, you have something to say.
Yeah, I have a question that is for the community. Please, I want to ask, when is this program? When is it ending?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I asked, when is this program? When is it going to?
Okay, so
Did you hear that?
I really don't know because normally we requested it should end by December. That's December ending. But some people are saying that when they signed in, they saw that the bonus was available for a year. So yes, if it happens to be that your license or your access to Screenbar doesn't end, end by December, by ending of December, then that means um you have the opportunity and you can continue learning till next year June. But
Oh,
if it
sorry,
doesn't work that way, it
I've
means
been speaking. I didn't even know that I'd left the call. I don't know where I stopped.
anyway. So you might yeah. So
Okay.
reach out to you to let you know that you're not the call.
Okay. So I think I was showing. Let me quickly share my screen again. Okay. So I was showing. Okay, I was showing this. So this is also this is just pure HTML and CSS. I think this person, not sure the person's name. While I cannot, so this is okay in terms of you are trying to just master how to do styles and layout, but in terms of complementary colors, right? This is like they're not complementary. This is looking pinkish and this is like red or so. So it's consistent typography. I know that you might not be design intuitive, but if this is just to test how you lay out things, that's fine. But UI interface, it might not be as the best, right? It can be worked on, it can be improved. So like, the more you work with designers, the more you know how color scheming is like it should be. But since this is not a guide, you're not really giving a design to work on, then that's fine, right? I I also saw that it's responsive in a manner. So if I switch to tab, but it's changing to flex, which is okay. Then the code base is nothing that I can be opinionated about because it's just pure HTML and CSS. So um, there's no hard rules to how it should be written. The only thing I could say is maybe in CSS there's also called places where you can also like adhere to not repeating yourself. DRI. DRY means don't repeat yourself. KISS means keep it simple, stupid. So that's uh these are like the coding qualities or coding standards, right? So there's also what they call CSS variables, like the way you develop variables in JavaScript, that you can reuse them if you feel like a style is being repeated often time, and you can just use it as a variable, right? Having a global class called maybe for font family, instead of just having to call the font family over and over again, you can just use the global universal selector to say, okay, this particular HTML is just going to be uh, using this font family, right? Um, I also have one here, which is I don't have much, but if you can send me um more of them to review, I can just do that asynchronously, just do like a recording, and I'll just provide feedback. So this one is also like pure HTML and CSS. Uh, this is also okay in terms of layouts, you knowing how to use images, text, containers, structure. But like I said, design wise is gonna be like critics, right? And I know it's fine that you're just trying to like show your knowledge of HTML and CSS, right? The design inclination won't grow as you work with more designs and work with more of designers' works as much as possible. This is also a little bit more responsive, like I feel like it should be, right? using Flex, I guess. Okay. HTML is not bad. Images. I would also advise you use consistent. Use consistent naming for your images. Just to adhere, right? You're using JPEG, use JPEG. You're using WebP, use WebP. Or oftentimes, personally, PNG has more quality on the web, right? So I'm not opinionated. If it's JPEG, then fine. So this is also CSS is also okay. I like the use of relative inputs, relative value EM. For those that don't know that, you can just use your W3 schools to check what is RAM, what is, because um some some styles is better to use EM and RAMs, right, for responsiveness across different screen sizes. Okay, I was trying to remember the name of let me see if I can go to YouTube. Yeah, this is the guy. Well, so if you have time, you can take a look at Kevin Poyle's YouTube channel. It is a CSS expert, so based on my knowledge. Um, he he shares like some CSS tips that can be very helpful, helping you reduce redundant code, helping you to do things better. He's a pro in it. So if you have your time, you can listen to Kevin Poyle's YouTube channel and watch his videos. But I don't want you to dwell too much on CSS because it's like I said, if if only you want, except you want to become a CSS guru, you just want to stick with that. But it's just an ingredient in the food you are making, so you don't need to dwell too much on it. Um, this is the last one. Wow, this is looking much more like it, but I don't know. I don't have code to this. Do I? Let me see. Okay, this is looking more user experience fine. This person obviously has possibly been doing web for a while now. So this is good user experience wise. Like the use of this animation. I don't know if you guys cover animations also on your course, but it's also good to know animations as a CSS. There are a ton of them that handles animations, animate the CSS. There are also some of them that are within the React ecosystem that also handles animations. But if you want to go crazily insane about animations, there's what's the name of this animation? Free Forest. Yes, it's like no, I can't remember the name of this particular. I have to check it out. Uh, sorry. GSAP, yeah. Brainstalk. This is more advanced animation, but that's if you want to be if you want to be crazily intense about animations. So for example, let's go to Flutterwave website. Oh no, sorry, Flutterwave send. So this photo we've seen website, right? You see this animation showing these are like advanced animations. Now, if I look at this is a tool that I usually use, a plugin, I mean an extension I usually use to check the technologies like each website shows. You can also install it. It's called Webbrowser. So they are using Vue.js, it's showing here, and Redux, some other things that make up the front end. But the animation is not showing here, but I kind of want to feel like they're using GSAP for this, right? So it has some very, very incredible animations. So maybe you have a project that requires a lot of animation. There are tons of them. And for example, this is, you can move this, see, very intense animation. So this person does, I like it. It's fine. It's good. I want to check the responsiveness. Responsiveness is not bad too. It's responsive. The person that did this work is here. Or he or she is here.
So I think that you said the person that made it should be
No,
here.
I'm just asking the person that here if I can also like review the code.
Oh, I don't think he's here, but we can, I don't think he's here. But
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I think that's the last. That's the last thing left that I could review. But if you have more works you want me to review, I can do that asynchronously. Just send a recording and provide some feedback.
oh, all right. Thank you, sir. Let me finally show my video. My network has been bad, so and I had to move. All right. So, you're done, right, sir? Do you have anything
Yes, I
else to
am.
say? All right. All right.
Um,
Thank you. Thank you very,
well,
very much. I feel
nothing
like
else.
calling. What's his name now? I don't know if he's, I don't think he's still on the call. I've forgotten his name. But yes, the guy that was really active to come and do the roundup for us. But yes, I mean, it has been so awesome. It has been insightful. I'm sure everybody has learned a whole lot from from today's session. And yeah, I was I wrote down some things. Yes, for some people that didn't join on time, right? I know we would have the video, but just to just give like a recap of all that we spoke about today. So time today was really talking about, it gave some tips and things that we should know before we actually things that are probably that are pivotal and are necessary for us to know as front end developers. So I started out by mentioning how that experience is important, and the experience is important and the need for growth, and how that um in the world, how the knowledge you have translates into works, right? How it translates to works that people can see. It's just like saying you're a painter or you're a carpenter, you're shouting, I'm a good carpenter, I'm a good carpenter. And they're like, oh yeah, now show me, let's see what you've done, right? So it's more like even in this hiring space, right? They want to see what you've done. So it was just really trying to make us see, okay, as you're learning, also try to build things and don't just build. Of course, I know like most of the projects we have like on screen, but they are beginner. For example, the weather app, the the basketball counter app, and all of that. So we should not. I mean, somebody can be like, okay, I've built all this, and then you add it to your portfolio and be like, you have those, and you now be like, okay, yes, I'm a front end developer. You should not limit yourself to post works alone. You should build things that are relevant, things that are geared towards solving a particular problem, or you just work on relevant projects, right? And you can even also collaborate with people to even have that done. Yes. So yes, you also mentioned they talked about your choice of what to learn, right? Don't just go ahead to learn to say that okay, I want to be special, then just go and learn one framework that is not really selling in the market, is a framework that you really cannot get a job for. I think he mentioned, I don't know the particular framework, I really cannot remember. And it was like it's fintechs that usually use it, and um they only employ people that they don't employ entry level guys. So you can imagine you going to learn that particular framework and you're expecting to get hired. It's not going to be possible. So you should learn what you know that once I learn this thing and I take my skills into the market, it's going to sell, right? So then you also mentioned about when you're building, when you're coding, you go for mobile first, right? Because most people most people actually access things with their phone. Can I imagine sending me a link now and you expect on my WhatsApp and you expect me to access it with my laptop first? So if probably working on my laptop, that and I'll be like probably people that are on their laptops for a very I feel like that would have to but like 90% of everybody in the world, or let me just say 70% on their phones, right? So they would actually prefer your mobile version of whatever you're doing. So uh, yes, you made mention of that, and then you mentioned um when you're adding assets forms, right? For example, your phone and all of that, you should also ensure that. Um, I'm sorry about the background noise. I had to move because of my network. So yes, you should also ensure that the assets you're adding to what you're building is not something that would affect the user experience. Can imagine a kind of picture that when it's not time for everything to load, it's the so I mean sorry the website is lagging and all of that. So you should always consider optimization. I think he made mention of the fact that when your user cannot really load what you've done in like 4 seconds. It's already really slow. Like it's already extremely slow. So you should also work towards that. So yes, we should consider user when we are designing or when we are coding. It made mention of having to write codes in ways that people could understand. You don't just write codes that only you can understand because you might be the one who wrote the code, but it can be another set of people that would manage the code, right? So he also mentioned about having meaningful variable names and naming conventions, learning how to use gifts, right? Learn it, even if you don't know it, just learn it because you don't nobody wants to be small scale, right? You mentioned how that there's like a use of gifts that is very, very advanced and we really don't know much about. So you should learn it. You should not just stay or limit yourself to that small thing that you know, right? Things are evolving every day. You should not limit yourself to the things that you know. And I feel like what you should also be abreast with trends, right? Things are coming up every day. You should be abreast with front-end development trends and all of that. So yes, you also mentioned something about testing. That you might not know it, but yes, when you go to work at higher organizations and advanced organizations, it will be a very good thing for you to know, and you should actually just learn it, right? Then you mentioned documentation, use of documentation. Yeah, Zamani's work was like a good reference for that. I'm sorry, I apologize for the noise again. Okay, yes, then he talked about okay, I'm so sorry about that. Then you also talked about resources, right? When you said that resources part, I was just like, don't limit yourself to screen by alone, right? There are a whole lot of resources online. You can go to YouTube. There are a whole lot of other resources, right? It's good to have it's good to learn from a wide range of resources, right? There might be one thing that you probably don't understand from Schema, and when you get to another place, you totally understand the concept. So yes, and then you mentioned about AI, how that AI also helps improves productivity, but then you should not be over reliant on AI. It can make you lazy. You might be very, very productive person when you are at work. So, and then he went on to answer our questions, and I'm sure we've all learned a whole lot. And this is just me trying to do some reaction. You can do that. If it's to chat, type in the chat box, that'll be fine. If it's to give a reaction, but I just want us to tell Ayomitide or Odunyemi a very, very big thank you, because it has really, really helped us. I mean, to Ayomitide for your time, for the wealth of knowledge that you passed across to the beneficiaries of TechUp Africa front-end development track. We are very, very grateful for I want one of the learners to unmute. So I want to call Leonard to just unmute your mic if you can and just give like a vote of thanks to give like a
Okay.
vote of thanks to me. Yes.
Okay. Um, I wish to appreciate Ayomi today on behalf of TechUp Africa Front End Development students for this wonderful section. Honestly, it has been impactful, and I must say that particularly to me, majority of my questions you answered them when you were teaching. So really, it has been impactful, and it's a wonderful section. And I also want to say that we would love to have you back, honestly. Ever since we were having this section, I mean, mentorship section, you have been the best. That's for me, though. You've actually been the best. And each time you come, like, you give out a whole wonderful, guidance and then insight in the industry. That shows the level of your knowledge. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
everyone.
much, Leonard. Okay. Okay, you wanted to say something?
No, I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you, Leonard. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Yomtili. So we've come to the end of today's session, and yes, this will be the last mentoring session we'll have. We'll see if we would have probably a webinar for the front-end learners, well, not the mentoring session, for somebody to just come and speak to us. But we'll see how that goes, right? But for now, we've come to the end. This is the last mentoring session for this year. We're closed for the year. Christmas is coming soon. And the year is coming to an end. All right. So I'm just going to wish every one of us success in our careers, success in what we're learning. I love to hear stories of how a whole lot of us making the dollars. Right. To be good to get good success stories from every one of us. So yeah, some people are also asking for attendance. I didn't mention attendance on the group chat. So don't worry, it's fine. For those of you that are here, the record have been taken and we've taken note of everybody, right? So you wouldn't be required to fill any attendance manually. So yes, we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Mr. Unity. So we can call it a day. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Yes, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye.